It's time for NFL Daily. The Vikings are rolling into a first-round bye, but are they actually better than the Eagles? Harris and Tom will debate. The Jaguars dominated on Sunday. Blake Bortles might be hoisting a Lombardi trophy in February. The Atlanta Falcons seem to have gotten their legs underneath them now. Where do they sit in the brand new Chat Sports Power Rankings? The Chiefs are now back on top of the AFC West after a couple of big wins, including one over the San Diego Chargers. Did they even have a chance, though, to make it out of the first round of the playoffs? The Ravens have been great so far in the second half. Have they made the jump into our top 10? Where do the Birds sit? The Saints had some weird issues with the Jets, but have no fear, Nola. The Saints actually jumped up a spot from last week as they continue their march into the playoffs. The Rams trashed the Seahawks, but wasn't enough to break out of the number 5 spot. The Patriots are on their way to another top seed in the AFC and an MVP for Tom Brady. Tom and Harris discuss how much longer Tom Brady has at the top of his game. The Eagles look just fine without Nick Foles, or with Nick Foles, I should say, but who really is the top team in the NFC? The Steelers might just be number 1 if Jesse James had caught that ball. But how far did they fall with an L instead of a W? With Greg Olsen back, the Panthers look like contenders, but don't look now. They don't have a playoff spot locked up quite yet or a top 10 spot in our power rankings. And speaking of the top 10, I think Cowboys fans out there will have things to say about this one. It's NFL Power Rankings here on NFL Daily. Let's go. Welcome into NFL Daily. Tom Downey, Harris Rubenstein. It's time for a big ranking show. Not only are we doing NFL Power Rankings, Tom, we are colliding two of the biggest shows here we do and doing MVP Power Ranking as well. If we were ranking anything else, we'd be ranking online internet sports networks, to which Chat Sports would be number 1.
Nice plug there. Yeah, it's late in the year. We kind of narrowed down the MVP race, the bottom tier teams in the NFL where, well, you guys are looking ahead to next offseason, so sorry on that front, folks.
And remember to stay tuned for the teams that might not be in the top half of our power rankings. We will be doing our draft hoarder show over the next couple weeks as well, including a couple mock drafts. So
plenty of those.
Plenty of mock drafts, especially with one of the, again, if we're ranking, online internet mock drafters, Tom Downey would be picked in the top 5. Can't say number 1 because, it goes on a daily basis, but top 5 at least. But without further ado, let's start off with our power rankings. And Tom, we start off the show every single week and every Thursday with the Cleveland Browns.
Ain't changed, ain't going to change until they actually win a game, and even then probably won't change because they are 2 games behind the rest of the NFL.
Really sad to see the Cleveland Browns there. Number 32, let's just move on.
Yep, let's keep on rolling.
Let's move to number 31. We have the New York, I don't even want to call them the football Giants anymore. They're just kind of the New York sad-faced Giants at this point.
Hey, they put up a good fight against the Eagles, which we'll talk more about during the Philadelphia side of things, but this is just not a good Giants football team. The bright side is for New York, an early head start on their next coaching search and GM search, too.
And also, Evan Ingram looks pretty good.
Yeah, I still think they would have been better off with an offensive lineman, but, because the right side of that line is bad right now with Justin Puig out.
But what are you going to do? Let's continue on to number 30, the Indianapolis Colts, fresh off of a pounding against the Denver Broncos, 31st in offense, 31st in defense. You don't really need much out of this team.
Bye-bye Chuck Pagano.
Bye-bye Chuck Pagano.
Maybe a different job in the future. He gone.
Let's move into the Houston Texans coming in at number 29. Pretty interesting drop for them, though they did lose 45-7.
Yeah, they got pounded by the Jacksonville Jaguars. They kind of slid down a little bit. Some of the teams that had a little bit better showing, put up a better fight, maybe should have been ahead of the Houston Texans in the first place. It's unfortunate for the Texans. If Deshaun Watson had been healthy, they would have been fighting for a playoff spot. Instead, well, their early pick goes to Cleveland. In the battle of the crap bowl, let's move into the Chicago Bears, who take on the Cleveland Browns this week. Tom, a very interesting matchup between those two. Yeah, this is not going to be a fun game, Harris. We'll have our full previews on Friday.
Oh, yeah.
The Bears going to lose to Cleveland. Browns going to get off the schneid with a W.
Excuse me?
Yeah, Browns are going to win.
All right, well, I thought the Browns were going to win last week, but the Browns did not win last week. Yes. Let's move away from the Bears and continue our charge through the NFL Power Rankings. How about number 27? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who, you know what, Tom? I'm tired of this. They looked good.
Yeah,
They looked good.
but they're 4-10.
I know,
Like,
but they looked
goody.
good.
They look good and still found a way to lose a game against a team that they should have been beating based on the early season expectations of this Bucs team. I think Dirk Cutt has got to go. 4-10, a massive disappointment. Outside of the Giants, I don't really know if there's been a team that has failed to reach expectations in the same way that the Buccaneers have done so. I think it's time for Dirk Cutter to get out of here.
I would happen to agree with you. Let's move in to number 26 now. The Cincinnati, I'm not going to say it, Tom. The Bengals.
There you go. Thank you for
that was really difficult.
Thank you for not uttering a slur.
That was
sir.
really difficult for me.
Yeah, this Bengals team is awful. There's now some will-he, won't-he around Marvin Lewis, who the report is that he's going to step away, which had been a little bit expected, either fired or say, hey, you've been here for so long, you can resign of your own accord. He's not coming back, and if he is, Bengal fans are going to be very, very upset.
A little cat-on-cat action. The Bengals take on the Lions.
You were waiting for that.
I was very much waiting for that one.
You were giddy about it.
Let's jump away now to the Jets at number 25. Put up a valiant fight against the New Orleans Saints last week.
Yeah,
valiant,
they
but
did.
lost.
You know, Bryce Petty didn't look great. Muhammad Wilkerson, he is continuing to be a troublemaker for the Jets. I think we have seen the last of Muhammad Wilkerson in a Jets uniform.
Is that a bad thing?
He pulled an Albert Hainsworth, man. He got paid and he got lazy, and he's not doing the work that he's supposed to be doing. He and Todd Bowles are not getting along. Wilkerson, I don't think, is going to come back next year. We'll see how much he gets paid after this contract. The Jets have structured it in a way that they can get out of that contract.
All right, we're moving into some of the teams that you actually care about, but first, let's go over the teams that we might not care about as much. Got the Browns, the Giants, the Colts, and the Texans. And then moving on, we got the Bears, the Bucs, the Bengals, and the Jets. I really have to force it out every single time.
Shouldn't be that hard.
You know what, Tom? I'm actually kind of surprised that we have this team so low. I personally had them ranked at number 21. Coming up here, number 24 are the San Francisco 49ers, fresh off of a very nice win streak with their new top 10 quarterback, Jimmy Garroppolo.
Let's pump the brakes a little bit on Jimmy Garoppolo, and let's also remember who the Niners have played over this stretch. These are not great teams. Let's see how they fare against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's see how Garoppolo fares against a really, really good defense before we start anointing him as the second coming of Tom Brady.
He is not the second coming of Tom Brady. He is his own quarterback. But that doesn't mean he can't also be top 10.
Look, I think a 4-10 team at 24 is more than fair enough.
Fair enough. All right, let's move into number 23. We have the Denver Broncos, and, well, hey, they won a game, Tom.
2 in a row now for Denver. All right, they're looking a little bit better. Still a disappointing season, but I think they've done just enough to save Vance Joseph's job. The big question around Denver, what are they going to do at quarterback next year? Is it going to be Paxton Lynch? Are they going to draft somebody early? Are they going to go out and sign a big-priced free agent, Kirk Cousins potentially?
Man, I don't want to call out the NFL for scheduling a lot of really bad games this week. Obviously, they can't, plan them ahead of time, but we have the Broncos and the Redskins.
Well, I mean, there are going to be bad games at the end of the year with teams not in the playoff mix. As opposed to they're going to play the game at some point. I don't have an issue with that. When it's not in prime time, that's fine.
And speaking of bad games, our number 22 team, we have the Arizona Cardinals. Tom, I'm a little bit surprised to see them that high. I had them at number 25. I don't really see a lot that this team comes to. I just don't think they're that good.
I had them at 22 again. This is the AP-style voting rankings where everyone on the chat sports staff gets a vote. We put them all together, divide by the number of votes, and boom, there's your rankings there. With the Cardinals, I think this is exactly right. Look, they're 6-8. They're a solid but not great team. They're the last 6-8 team or the lowest ranked 6-8 team. Seems about right for me.
Fair enough, fair enough. All right, let's move into number 21. Speaking of 6-8 teams, we have the Miami Dolphins who, man, I'll tell you, Tom, it is so Miami Dolphins to beat the Patriots at home and travel to Buffalo and then lose to the Bills.
Yeah, Jay Cutler,
that is such a Dolphins
Jay
thing
Cutler
to do.
didn't look very good against the Bills, huh?
That last throw that he had that ended the game after turnover was one of the funniest things I think to happen all season long.
This is the Dolphins. They're going to be a 7, maybe 8-win team. Maybe they end up, maybe they even settle in at 6. It's just not a great Dolphins team. They've had a lot of injuries this year as well.
That's very true. All right, let's move into number 20, bringing into some of the teams that are actually still in the playoff hunt.
Not this one.
Here is one. Oh, no, excuse me. Here isn't one. They just got kicked out. The Oakland Raiders, who just lost to the Cowboys.
They're not getting in.
On the crazy. Well, we don't have the NFL paper went home, but guys, Gene Steratore asked for him back, so we sent him home.
Yeah. Also, the NFL said that they can no longer use refs can no longer use folded note cards or pieces of paper to measure.
I did hear that NFL Paper is going to sue the NFL for libel because they are taking away his right to profit off of this.
Wait, that's suing for libel? That's not remotely right.
He's a piece of paper. I
That's
don't know
not remotely right.
I'm just telling you what he told me, okay? He's a piece of paper. He's really confused. This has all been a big... He's very flustered right now.
Also, libel is the written slant, or is the written version
He's a piece of paper. Yeah, fine. Moving on to number 19. Moving on to number 19. Oh, man, this is just another team that we were talking about. They have a really bad game coming up against the Broncos. So you did mention that they might be actually facing the team that the current starting quarterback goes to, the Washington Redskins.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening with Kirk Cousins. The Redskins offseason, I think, is going to be one of the most interesting ones for me because they do have some money to play with. They actually have quite a few free agents. I want to see what they do at receiver. I don't know if Terrell Pryor is going to come back. And then there's the big white whale, Kirk Cousins. If he leaves, I don't know what Washington is going to do at quarterback because there is a giant hole there. Because as much as I love Colt McCoy, he is a backup.
Very, very true. All right, let's jump away from the Washington Redskins and into another team. It's the Green Bay Packers in there at number 18. The Aaron Rodgers dream did not come true. The Warpath season is officially over.
I tried to warn you guys. I didn't think Green Bay was going to beat Carolina. And that's exactly what ended up happening. And now Aaron Rodgers has gone back on IR. Brett Hundley's back in at quarterback, and the Packers are probably, just not going to be very good. I don't see them putting up much of a fight against the Vikings. Vegas had said the spread was the difference between with Rodgers, without Rodgers was 10 or 11 points, the biggest for any individual player. And that seems fair.
That is fair. Green Bay Packers at number 18. At number 17, we have the Tennessee Titans, fresh off a loss against the 49ers. You know, it's tough going up against a team when you just don't have as good of a quarterback, but they have a huge game this upcoming weekend against the Los Angeles Rams. Probably going to be a loss as they are gripping onto a playoff spot. Iron fist. They're gonna slip.
Awful Netflix show, by the way. The Titans at 8-6.
Well
with the Rams and Jags coming up, I think that they're going to finish the year 8-8 with a very disappointing and frankly embarrassing collapse into the Cardinals and the Niners by a combined 7 points, and then of course home against the Rams in Jacksonville. 8-8, I don't think will be enough to get them in the postseason, and they'll be just short. And that might be enough to fire Mike Mularkey. Teams will always end up as the embodiment of their head coach, and I don't think an embodiment of a team could be more than what this Tennessee Titans team has been under Mike Mularkey. All right, let's check out our summary before we move into the top half of the NFL. We got the Browns, the Giants, the Colts, and the Texans wrapping up the bottom four in the NFL. Then after that, we got the Bears, the Bucks, the Bengals, and the Jets. Coming up after that, we have the 49ers, the Broncos, the Cardinals, and the Dolphins. And then finally, we have the Oakland Raiders, the Redskins, the Green Bay Packers, and the Tennessee Titans. All right, Tom, we have one more foursome to do before we move into our MVP power rankings. And one team that I think is actually a decent surprise to be outside of our top 12. And let's first get into the teams that really aren't a surprise. We have the Buffalo Bills jumping up a spot after that win after the Dolphins. I would just like to point out that to my Bills Mafia faithful, I love you guys. Never change who you are and your reckless stunts. I had the Bills higher. I had the Bills a couple spots higher because of the teams that they've beaten this year. I think in the end, though, and we'll talk more about this here with our next team up, the Bills' decision to play Nathan Peterman at quarterback against the Chargers is going to cost them a playoff spot. Yeah, really. Because if the Bills had played Tyrod Taylor in that game, I truly believe they win. You think they beat the Chargers? Yes, I do think that. Interesting. I was right. Look, Nathan Peterman gave them that game away in the first half. That was right at the start of the Chargers win streak. Mm-hmm. That was right when they got hot. But we'll never know the many ifs of the NFL season. They would have won that game. I had them right at 16 because I think the Buffalo Bills are the epitome of a league average football team. But what are you going to do? We have another team to get to. How about the Forspoken Los Angeles Chargers? I had them a little bit lower. I had them behind the Bills, but that's actually I didn't have them behind the Bills. But I think the Chargers, this is a fine spot for them. I wasn't ready to buy them as a team ready to win the AFC West. I think I said at the beginning of the year, Harris, because you and I disagreed on the Chargers. Yep. I think I said their ceiling was 9-7. If I recall correctly. I said they were going to go 10-6. Yes. And so technically you were wrong. I was wrong. They were on the precipice of doing that, and then Phillip Rivers does what Phillip Rivers has done in almost every single big game in his entire career and crapped the bed. They became the Chargers with the ceiling of a 9-7 football team. So I guess I was right there in the end. Sad, so, Thomas. There we go. And speaking of teams who have hit their ceilings, at number 14,
we have the Detroit Lions coming off of, hey, look at that, a win against a bad team. They are so good at beating bad teams, it hurts.
Guess what? They got 2 more bad teams left on the schedule in the Bengals and the Packers.
Well,
they win both those games.
If the Packers win somehow this weekend against the Vikings, they will be going up against an 8-7 football team, which is an above 500 football team, the Lions will have
You're speaking in hypotheticals that aren't going to come true.
You know what?
The Detroit Lions are an 8-6 football team. I think they'll beat the Bengals. I think they will also beat the Packers at 10-6. Might just be enough to get in the postseason.
You see,
I told you for many times this year, Lions are going to be an 8, 9, or 10 win football team. Look where we're at.
And I'll put it this way with the Lions.
I also the Giants are going to be good.
I would put money on them blowing one of these last 2 games. I'd put
that
money
also
on
would
it.
not surprise me, but I'll still be right with. I'll still be right with 9 wins.
I would put so much money on them blowing one of these games and not making the playoffs. All right, let's jump into our last non-playoff team, or I should say second to last non-playoff team. We have the Seattle Seahawks, not in the playoffs yet, not out yet, but one more loss and they are out. There's bickering in the locker room. Fun thing here to talk about, Tom Downey. This Seahawks team, not used to losing, you can make an argument going into next season that they might be in the worst spot, or they might be the 3rd best team in that division, depending on what the 49ers do this offseason. Because Richard Sherman is probably going to end up getting cut. The offensive line is not improved. Neither has the receiving options. I'm not just saying this because of Garoppolo. I'm saying this because with what the 49ers front office has been able to do with this team, we don't know what the future of the Seahawks is right now. The Rams just snatched the baton out of their hands in the NFC West.
You mentioned Richard Sherman getting cut. That also frees up a ton of cap space if that ends up what's happening. I remember earlier this year, there was that bombshell ESPN piece that the Seattle players took issues with about how they didn't always get along, which is what happens in NFL, with NFL teams.
Too many alpha males.
Well, in the end, the main point of that story was Seattle doesn't know how to lose. Look where we're at. They don't know how to lose games, and when they lose games, they don't
I never thought I would see Earl Thomas and Bobby Wagner eating
Look, it's frustration. It's frustration when you see your offense can't move the ball and the defense has a rough game because of all the injuries. So I get that. Look, I still think Seattle is a quality team. I think they'll find a way to get to 9 wins, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs because I thought they were going to at least show up against the Rams. I guess they forgot that the game was on Sunday. I don't know what happened. That was an embarrassing effort.
It was an embarrassing effort. We will have our preview for you tomorrow with the Seahawks and the Cowboys. We'll certainly spend a lot of time on that game. All right, before we get into MVP power rankings, let's go through our 32 through number 12 teams. Got the Browns, the Giants, the Colts, and the Texans. Then we have the Bears, the Buccaneers, the Cincinnati football team, and the Jets. I just can't even say it anymore.
It's fine.
We have the 49ers, the Broncos, the Cardinals, and the Dolphins. After that, the Raiders, the Skins, the Packers, and the Titans. And then our final 4, well, not really final 4, like kind of just final 4, the Buffalo Bills, the Chargers, the Lions, and the Seahawks. But a reminder for the people at home that this episode is brought to you by Mizzen and Main, the most comfortable dress shirts you will find anywhere, made from performance fabric. I know I got a couple of them for the holiday season, and you should too. The only piece of clothing I think anyone will have or will be happy with when they're under their Christmas tree. By the way, happy Hanukkah. Hanukkah's officially over, though.
I actually need socks and underwear this year. Now, I'm not going to be happy when I get those. I would much rather have a Mizzen and Main shirt.
That's true. I would rather just have 3 more Mizzen and Main shirts. Got a couple.
8-year-old me is so mad at me for saying that, by the way.
Forget socks.
That I need socks and underwear.
Head to comfortable.af because those shirts are indeed comfortable as F. Tom, it is time for MVP Power Rankings. We have a fresh top 5. A lot of injuries that have taken away a lot of the luster of this list.
Yeah, this list would have been a lot more fun to actually debate had multiple players not gone down with injuries and or laid a goose egg last week.
And every time we say NFL and injuries, I just think of that Sports Illustrated cover with just
curses aren't real.
Carnage right at the top. Just crazy, crazy stuff. All right, let's get into number 5. Tom, you made this list. I'll let you take this one away. At number 5, Rusell Wilson, moving way down the list.
Wilson was, 2 last week?
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah,
2.
He plummeted because he looked awful against the Rams.
The whole team
that's fair. The entire team didn't look like they showed up. Frankly, the month of December for Rusell Wilson, the past 2 games, has not been very good. This is the time of the year where, fair or not, there's a little bit more emphasis placed on the way players play. And Rusell Wilson hasn't looked good. Now, look, it's not all of his fault. And there's a reason he's still 5 because he is an incredible player. But right now, you've got Rusell Wilson who doesn't have time in the pocket, and he's not been able to quite make the same style of plays he's made in the past. I would also see him get the damn ball to Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, really.
Like, he has been a complete and utter non-factor in the past 2 weeks. I don't know what's going on there with Jimmy Graham in Seattle. I know he's banged up. But Rusell Wilson looked, to an extent, he's always a little skittish because he has to be, but he looked more skittish than he should be. And I was disappointed by what we saw with Wilson.
Not so much. I think that we're uncomfortable.
Yes, that's a good way to describe it.
I think it's the first time, for one of the first times we've actually seen him uncomfortable in a big game. So we have Rusell Wilson sitting there number 5, huge.
I also considered Antonio Brown here.
Okay.
But I decided to put only one injured player in our list, and I think with Antonio Brown, I wasn't super high on his MVP candidacy, and I think missing these last couple games for a receiver, it's just going to knock him out altogether.
We had Eagles fans all over our mentions because we didn't have Carson Wentz in our list, but we have to be consistent. But just kidding, we actually have Carson Wentz in number 4 on our list.
Well, I think that Carson Wentz remains a MVP candidate now. Had Antonio Brown stayed healthy, because he still leads the NFL in touchdowns. Like, here we are, and with 2 weeks to go, and Carson Wentz, who's missed time, is still leading the NFL in touchdowns. He's still had a fantastic year. So Carson Wentz is not going to win the MVP.
Okay.
He will not. And frankly, we went with the top 5. Wentz is not going to win.
If he gets votes, I will be upset.
I do think he'll get some votes. I think he's going to get some votes. So that is why he gets number 4, because he is going to get votes.
Then we need to talk about why someone who, I understand, he played a great 13 games, but he only played 13 games. And he's still going to get first place votes over maybe 2 of the best running backs in football, Le'Veon Bell and Todd Gurley, who will play a full 16. He'll get over a 40-year-old Tom Brady who's played 16 games. I recall a
quarterback a couple years ago who got first place votes who didn't play in all 16 games. And he played for the Patriots.
Yeah, and he should have gotten votes.
Okay.
And we're going to look back and be like, how did Matt Ryan win over one of Aaron Rodgers' great seasons of all time?
Matt Ryan deserved that MVP award. He absolutely deserved it, without a doubt.
Going to go down as one of the weirdest MVP trophies ever given out in NFL history.
That was the one that the kicker won.
No thanks. Yeah, Matt Ryan could be number 2 behind that one. No. All right, let's move into number 3.
We'll give you the blind resume test after the show. You'll be like, oh, I'm going to pick this guy. Oh, I picked Matt Ryan. Oops.
I don't want Matt Ryan. The second I see it's Matt Ryan, not Aaron Rodgers, I want Aaron Rodgers having that MVP trophy. But at number 3, we need to go to an MVP trophy. Drew Brees at number 3.
He has my vote. I am voting for Drew Brees. Because
look at his completion percentage.
That's unbelievable.
For Drew Brees.
If that holds, that is going to set the NFL record, which was originally set last year by Vikings quarterback Sam Bradford in the, oh my God, please don't let Sam Bradford die, get out of his hand right now offense.
Oh my God, is that Jerick McKinnon?
That's what they ran. Their offense was 1, 2, 3, drop, throw it or throw it away. Like, it was get it out in a heartbeat. This is not the same offense that Drew Brees is running. There's far more developing routes. Now, Brees this year doesn't have the touchdowns. And that's going to pull him down because the Saints go, oh, Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. Here's the ball, touchdown, easy peasy. But Drew Brees, to not have an MVP, I think is a complete and utter ridiculous statement to have to say, even though it's a fact. I think that my vote is going to Drew Brees, and yes, it is kind of sort of a career MVP award, but I think he deserves it. And what better year when you got a bunch of guys with injuries?
I can agree with a Drew Brees MVP vote there. That wouldn't make me too upset.
Plus, I have to get on the Saints' good side because I'm not going to have positive things to say later on in the show.
Ooh, really? Yeah. From the captain of the Saints train himself?
Things change, Harris.
Uh-oh. All right, let's move into number 2 before we get into that. And man, oh man, maybe just the most versatile running back in the NFL right now. I understand Le'Veon Bell is, obviously doing it for more years now, but the yards per carry is in Todd Gurley's favor. I'm tired of splitting this up for, we need to start doing total yards and total touchdowns. Total yards.
People can do math.
I know. Total yards for Todd Gurley this year. Over 1,800 yards and 20 touchdowns. Excuse me, 17 touchdowns.
There you go.
Crazy stuff.
Got the math wrong.
No, I thought it was 16. It was 17 touchdowns.
It's okay to say that you got the math wrong.
Yes,
it's okay. Math is hard.
It was the wrong number.
Look, Todd Gurley I think was 5 last week in the rankings, and he takes a big jump up with 4 TDs last week against the Seattle Seahawks. There, very impressed by what we've seen from Todd Gurley as of late. I think that it's kind of who else is going to get the award? I think he's going to remain here in the mix going forward because of how impressive he's been.
And I think one of the other great things about Todd Gurley, especially in the NFC, we saw that we had David Johnson obviously go down with that injury, and we were kind of waiting for someone to challenge Le'Veon Bell for that top spot. And Todd Gurley has not only picked up the baton in that sense, might just be better. Or having at least a better season. I don't know if
That's
you can
fair.
be better than Le'Veon Bell as a running back. I
fair.
still think he's the best running back, but
That's fair. Sean
you can have
McVay's done a
individual
much better job
seasons.
of using Todd Gurley properly, and the offensive line has stepped up.
Yes, for sure. All right, at number 1, not too much of a surprise at this point. Currently leading the NFL in both passer rating and passing yards. It is Thomas Edward Brady III, who will hopefully win his third MVP.
Does he lead the NFL in passer
The last time
rating?
I checked, I thought he did.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't. I'm pretty sure it belongs to somebody else, actually.
Is it not Tom Brady anymore?
Look, I need to double check, but I'm pretty sure you're wrong.
I do want to say one thing about Tom Brady. So this is the 4th year in a row where Tom Brady in the month of December has had more interceptions than he has touchdowns. And I think this kind of goes back to an interesting thing when it comes to Tom Brady, that since he's turned 35, he has actually started to tire down the stretch. And I think we all look at Tom Brady as the great invincible quarterback of the NFL, but he has. He has started to tire this month. 2 touchdowns to 4 interceptions.
He does not lead the NFL in
Who is
passer
it right
rating.
now?
Alex Smith, baby!
Oh, get Alex Smith out of my face.
Hey, Alex
Anyway,
Smith,
he's sitting at second at 104.
tied with Drew Brees.
There you go. So who will win the NFL MVP?
Who will win? It's going to be Tom Brady, and I'm kind of frustrated by that because, look, the MVP doesn't always go to the actual most valuable player, even the most deserving player. It often goes to one of the bigger names who's had a great year, and in the end here, I think that's going to be Tom Brady. I will still vote for Drew Brees unless he totally collapses down the stretch.
As much as I want to give it to Drew Brees, it kind of has to be Brady, doesn't it?
You can just say it's Tom Brady.
It's going to be Tom
okay.
Brady. It's going to be Tom Brady.
okay.
Throwing up the thumbs up. 40 years old, the best season post 38 ever put. Just crazy numbers for 40-year-old. But I will say this, Tom. Those numbers that he's been putting up in December the past couple of years are worrying to me as both a Patriots fan and an NFL football fan, because it might just be time to start questioning how many years does Tom Brady really have left.
You sound like a Boston sports radio host that you will always rag on.
Oh, you know what? I think I actually have a point this time. We'll get to that a little bit later. But one thing that isn't a Boston Sports Radio host are Mizzen and Main shirts. And let me tell you, if Boston Sports Radio hosts wore Mizzen and Main shirts, they'd be way, way, way more comfortable and probably in a way better mood, because these things are the most comfortable shirt that you will ever wear.
Kind of confused.
You like that transition?
I was very confused where you were going with it at first. Not sure it was perfect,
then it wrapped together.
but it works. It works.
Thank you.
I will give that one to you, Harris.
Head to comfortable.af for the most comfortable dress shirts you will find. And again, if you're looking for a late gift for Christmas or Kwanzaa, whatever holiday you may celebrate, can't be Hanukkah anymore because it already ended. Buy them a Mizzen and Main shirt. It'll be the best piece of clothing you can buy them this holiday season. All right, let's go back to the real power rankings. We just got through the MVP ones for the people just joining us at home. How about the NFL power rankings? Let's start with our bottom 4 with the Browns, the Giants, the Colts, and the Texans. After that, the Chicago Bears, the Bucks, the Bengals, and the Jets. After that, we have the 49ers, the Broncos, the Cardinals, and the Dolphins. Going at from number 20, we have the Raiders, the Redskins, the Packers, and the Titans. And then we left off with the Bills, the Chargers, the Detroit Lions, and the Seattle Seahawks. Tom, it is now time to get into our most likely playoff teams. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, let's start at number 12 with the Baltimore Ravens. Tom, this is an interesting football team. Their second half has been really, really good. However, that should be a win at the Cleveland Browns last week. They've been playing really well in the second half of the season.
I think with what Baltimore has done this year, it's been kind of a throwback to what we've seen in the past. A great defense and an offense that does just enough to not mess up too badly here. And I think that's where they're at as we currently stand. I think that the Ravens' schedule the rest of the way sets them up very, very well to get into the playoffs. And I'll actually be surprised if Baltimore doesn't finish the year with 10 wins and get in the postseason. Their schedule sets up well. They've shown that they compete against good teams. They nearly beat the Steelers. I like where Baltimore sits. I don't think they're going to make a deep playoff run, but I think that they're going to be a playoff team.
I will say this about the Baltimore Ravens. For a team, I want to say of their talent level on offense, to be able to squeak out 10 wins, is quite a testament to Dean Pease and that defense, who I don't think gets enough credit around the NFL right now for doing such a great job with this defense. This is now like the 4th or 5th year in a row where Dean Pease has led this Baltimore defense to a top 10 rating. They might have been one of the best defenses in football last year, high turnover numbers again this year. Why isn't Dean Pease getting more head coaching looks?
Why isn't Dean Pease getting more head coaching?
Yeah, this is one of the why is Matt Patricia, whose Patriot defenses have been meh, getting all the acclaim on defense?
Because Dean Pease is 68 years old.
Oh, Pete Carroll's like 75.
Yeah,
Tom Coughlin coached until he's 78.
You're not gonna hire a first-time head coach at age 68. And by the way, he's been a head coach. He, believe it or not, folks, was the head coach of the Kent State Golden Flashes.
Oh, great.
And it was awful.
The Kent State Golden Flashes. I think he's learned a little bit since Kent State.
He is a defensive coach. Not every coach who has a good defense deserves to be a head coach.
I know. I just don't
understand.
LeBeau. I just don't understand.
Dan Pease is not a head coach.
Dick LeBeau, I understand. I just don't understand the whole. I beg to differ. I believe that Dean Pease should get a look, especially for a team.
Take him, Harris.
Fine.
Take him.
I'll have him.
Take your 68-year-old head coach.
And guess what? You can take the Dallas Cowboys with you as they probably end up going golfing this offseason. We have the Dallas Cowboys number 11.
Number 11 right now, but
go golfing with us.
The schedule and the current situation does not bode well for a playoff race. They have to win out. They have to get ahead of teams like the Falcons. The Lions still have to lose a game for Dallas to get in. Also saw a comment war going on there.
Yeah, shout out to our comment war going on right now. This is getting physical.
I think it was something along the lines of fire Jason Garrett and then the never-ending Romo versus Dak debate, which we'll be having when Dak Prescott is a 30-year-old quarterback with multiple years under his experience there. So we'll see what happens there with the Cowboys. I don't think they're going to fire Jason Garrett, even if they lose out. I think 8-8. They'll bring him back because Jerry Jones does love Jason Garrett, by the way.
To the Cowboys fans watching this right now, if you really think Dak Prescott should be benched, just please stop commenting.
You definitely are not going to bench him for Cooper Rush.
Literally grow a different opinion.
Which was a thing we saw, by the way, on other shows. And,
sit down.
I had tweeted at me.
Take a deep breath, maybe close your eyes for a little bit and reevaluate.
As near as I can tell in the comment section, it's not a battle between Cooper Rush and Dak Prescott.
Okay, thank God.
It's a battle between Dak Prescott and the Cowboys fans who still want Tony back. And I will forever.
Are the Cowboys going to make the play? I don't even want. Are the Cowboys going to make the play? I'm not even giving that the time of day.
They will not.
And by the way, I like Tony Romo better in the broadcast booth. Thank you very much. Instead of getting his back broken every single Sunday. Poor Tony Romo. I'm sure he's happy as can be. All right, let's move into our top 10. The Cowboys did not make it, but I can tell you who did actually make it. The Kansas City Chiefs jump up 5 spots into our top 10 this week, Tom.
So I will point this out. I am one of the lower teams, or voters, I should say, on the Dallas Cowboys, but I still had them ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs. And I hated some regrets. I'm not going to name names. Harrison and friend of the show, Cam Rogers, had the Cowboys behind the Chiefs, even though the Cowboys won the head-to-head game.
Okay. Are the Cowboys making the playoffs?
Whoa, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that this was NFL playoff rankings. This is NFL power rankings.
They're not, but I'm sorry. I'm still going to take the team that's actually going to end up in the playoffs, and also the team that's been on a pretty good win streak lately, and just beat a massive division rival.
Harris,
let me ask you. The Cowboys have the biggest game of their season coming up against the Seahawks.
Yeah.
If they lose that game, they will have lost probably the biggest game of their season. They've lost a bunch of big games this season. The Chiefs won the biggest game of their season.
Okay, the last 3 games have all been the Cowboys' biggest game of the year because
they
lose one and they out. They lose one and they're out. Anyway,
I put the Chiefs at the top.
Harris, I just want to say you're the one going on about here getting teams in the playoffs. You had the Lions ahead of the Ravens, even though you're adamant the Ravens are getting in, the Lions aren't.
I put the Lions ahead of the Ravens because I still think the Lions are going to make the playoffs because the NFL is stupid.
Okay.
That's how it works.
We'll see.
I'm just saying the Kansas City Chiefs had an opportunity to blow the biggest game of their season at home. They've been on a wild roller coaster.
Then your logic still doesn't make sense because you had two NFC teams ahead of the Lions, meaning that they aren't going to get in based on your rating.
We'll see.
Anyway,
all right, we'll get there.
All right,
let's move into number 9, where we'll get into the top 10 now. The Atlanta Falcons, who take on the Saints this week. Tom, there is still a chance for the Falcons to win the division somehow.
Yes, somehow. There is. There's a very
Can we get our clinching scenario?
Yeah, there's a very complicated scenario in which the Panthers and Saints lose out, and I think the Lions have to lose out or at least lose one game, and then Atlanta ends up winning the NFC South. So, yeah, not going to happen. Atlanta, though, I do think is in very good shape here to make the playoffs, and they didn't look great at times against the Bucs. The offense hasn't clicked in the same way we saw them click last year. I still blame at least most of that on Steve Sarkisian. Finally got the ball going with Devonta Freeman. He had a great game. I think with Atlanta, this is a team that's in very good shape to make the playoffs. If they can win one more game, 10-6 with their tiebreaker advantage is going to get them in.
And it's wild because the Falcons started off so slow. They've really gotten their legs under. Remember, I've said this over the past couple of shows, that the Falcons at this point last year had the same record.
Yeah.
Which to me is still pretty crazy if you look at it. All right, let's get into the top 8. And excuse me. So we're going to move into the top 8 here. And at number 8, one more thing about the Atlanta Falcons that I wanted to mention, Tom. Excuse me, we're actually just going to move into the top 8 just to make it a little bit easier. Sitting at number 8, we have the Carolina Panthers. That's actually what I wanted to mention about them. Carolina Panthers sitting there at number 8. They're actually playing pretty well.
I think there's a big difference here between the top 9, the teams from 32 to 9 and the top 8. I think the top 8 are the true Super Bowl contenders right now. And with the Panthers at number 8 here, I think that they're going to find their way into the wild card. Maybe they don't sneak in as the NFC South. Maybe they only get the number 5 seed. But I think Carolina, in an NFC that is very deep, Carolina has 2 things going for them that I think an NFC team needs to have to win the NFC Championship. Number 1, a strong defense. They have that. Number 2, they have a very good quarterback in Cam Newton. That's not something we can say about some of the other top-tier teams. Their quarterback-defense combo is going to make them a dangerous threat going forward.
And I think one of the interesting things about him is that they've only required Cam Newton to make only a couple big throws a game. A lot of this offense is still relatively based around a low-scoring game, giving the ball back, or at least running the clock out, and letting their defense take over in games. I think their total defense number is a little bit skewed. They actually give up a decent amount of yards. I think that scoring defense number, they've started to give up a lot of points over the last couple weeks. 24 points to the Packers. I understand Aaron Rodgers come back, but still a little high. I think they need to decrease the overall scoring in their games if they want to actually make it far.
The defense has had some issues up and down, but I think that there's a quality defense, the top 15 defense. It's not the same defense we saw that got them to the Super Bowl, and they nearly won that game. Maybe if Cam Newton had dove on the football, things have been a little bit different there. But I think this is a dangerous Carolina team, and in a really, really good NFC, I don't want to play them assuming that they get the number 5 seed in the NFC.
So we got a little reaction poll here for the people at home. Which team will get the number 6 seed in the NFC? Give us a heart for the Cowboys, a wow face for the Lions, a laughing face for the Falcons, or a ha-ha face, I should say, and a thumbs up for the Seahawks. Give us a like if you think Seattle's going to actually somehow end up in the playoffs. Tom, who do you have?
I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons. I think that they find a way to win one of their next 2 games, and or the Cowboys and Lions drop another game, kind of handing it to the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know which game it's going to end up mattering. My guess is that you see the Falcons lose this week, find a way to beat Carolina. Mm-hmm. That gets them to 10 wins, and if they get to 10 wins, they're going to get in the postseason. And I think in the end, if the Falcons are the 6th seed, I do think they lose to either, likely in this case, the Rams or maybe even the Saints. I
also personally think, and we've had a lot of arguments in years past about whether or not the best teams are actually making it into the playoffs. I think the playoff picture as it stands right now, these are the 6 best teams in the NFC. I think as good as the Cowboys are and their roster is really nice, they aren't as good as the Falcons or the Panthers. I don't think just their team quality is as high as the other 2.
If we include Sean Lee and Ezekiel and everyone else on that team, and everyone's healthy with Tyron Smith, maybe the Cowboys.
Former MVP Matt Ryan.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm talking about the health side of things.
That is one thing I actually want to mention.
The Cowboys' depth is actually not that great.
When Tyron Smith ends up coming back, they will be one of the healthier teams in the NFL. They actually haven't had that crazy monster detrimental injury. I mean, losing Zeke for 6 weeks, not obviously the same with the injury, but the detrimental injury, like, the Packers losing Aaron Rodgers for 9 weeks. They haven't had that.
The detrimental injury was having Sean Lee out for almost half the year.
But we knew that was going to happen.
But they're built to have him. It's not like, we knew he was going to get hurt. It was, look, the Cowboys don't have the depth to replace those guys.
I think their injury luck this year has been much greater than a lot of the teams in the NFC. I think,
especially when you compare it to the Eagles or the Vikings.
The Eagles, Vikings,
the Saints, I think, are also in that group now. The Rams have been very healthy.
I think, they did just lose Greg the Leg, which, don't scoff at Greg DeLay. Greg DeLay, one of the better kickers in the NFL. All right, let's move away from the NFC playoff picture, and let's get back into some NFL power rankings. Sitting at number 7, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. We actually ended up having moved back a spot in our power rankings. Kind of surprising, even though they absolutely dominated in this one.
Jacksonville is an interesting team because, Blake Bortles has put up some nice stats. Who here actually believes that Jacksonville and Blake Bortles are a dynamic team? Who here trusts Blake Bortles to go win you a playoff game or get you to a Super Bowl?
No, I'm kidding. No,
your hand was up there.
I trust him to be good enough to get them there. I am completely on the board that Blake Bortles could host a Lombardi Trophy this year. I think the Jaguars could win a Super Bowl.
I mean, it's very funny. You listen to opposing players like Clowney and said, what do you think of Blake Bortles? And Clowney's like, no, he's not good. The defense has set up Jacksonville to succeed. The ground game has been great. I don't want to put my faith in Blake Bortles. I think this is a very, very good regular season team, but I don't know if it's going to be good enough to get them beyond the Patriots and the Steelers. Yeah, we saw the Jags beat the Steelers. I don't think Big Ben's going to throw 5 picks in that game again. So in a rematch with Steelers likely at home, I will pick the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Patriots over Jacksonville. I do think that they are the clear-cut third best team in the AFC.
Also, I will say this: you were getting on me before, but you have this team over this team, even though they all beat each other. Steelers
different records.
Steelers lost to the Jaguars.
Different records.
Yeah, the Jaguars you still have lower. Yeah. Consistency, Tom.
Different records. I'm actually very consistent for the most part with my records, unless the team has gone on a recent win streak or their injuries.
Just like the Chiefs. Let's move into number 6. And sitting there at number 6, another great playoff team. But Tom, you said that you had some concerns about the New Orleans Saints. What do you got?
I am always going to be on the Saints bandwagon. I love what they have done this year. My concern now going forward is their health. And this is a Saints team that we saw what happened last year. The defense was not very good last year. This year, as you saw there, it has been a top 10 defense. But the injuries are starting to mount. They haven't had Delvin Breaux all year. That's been fine because Marshawn Lattimore's been, I think, really should be getting Rookie of the Year discussion. He's been that good at corner, even with as good as Alvin Kamara's been. Ken Crawley's been a nice fit, but the injuries piling up. Kenny Vaccaro is going to be out for the year. He's been placed on IR. That comes a few days after A.J. Klein has been placed on IR. Alex Anzalone was lost earlier in the season. They also lost Alex Okafor even before that. This is a Saints team that is not built on their defensive side of the ball to survive a rash of injuries. That's what they've had in the past few weeks. I am concerned about that Saints defense. They're going to make the playoffs. I like this team. Drew Brees is going to keep them in the mix. I think they should be able to win a playoff game. But I think the loss of A.J. Klein, who's been playing middle linebacker, kind of been their vocal, not leader, but vocal captain, so to speak, on the defensive side of the ball. Plus Kenny Vaccaro has played a big role. If they lose another guy in that defense, I'm super concerned about them. Again, I like the Saints team overall, but the defensive injuries have me concerned about them.
I think that's fair. It's fair.
Yeah.
Very fair, Tom.
Thank you, Harris.
Let's move into number 5. Nothing really more needs to be said. Let's move into number 5 here. At number 5, we like being consistent here. The Rams did beat the Saints, so we have the Rams at number 5, and they definitely should be. Surprised that the Chat Sports crew, including myself, didn't end up putting them higher. Man, they took the Seattle Seahawks, put them into a trash can, and then proceeded to light that trash can on fire.
They are the highest ranked 10-4 team. I think that's exactly where the Rams should be right now. And I get that they're behind the Vikings and teams like the Steelers and some of the teams that we're going to get to here in just a little bit. I think the Rams in the top 5 is exactly where they're supposed to be. I've been impressed by what Los Angeles has done this year, and also surprised by what they've done this year. Mm-hmm. Very surprised, because I didn't think they were going to be a 10-4 team.
No one did.
If you had told me that, or at the very least a 10-win team, if you had told me, hey, the Rams have 10 wins, I'd be like, what you talking about? What happened? Is Sean McVay a god? Maybe that's the case here.
And I think what's crazy about this Rams team is not only are they so good right now, they have a lot of cap space coming up in the next couple of years, but they will obviously
Jared Goff's on a cheap contract, relatively
Jared Goff's
speaking.
on a cheap contract.
Gurley's
they will
still
have to
cheap.
re-sign Gurley on a deal soon. Aaron Donald's probably going to get a new contract this upcoming offseason.
I hope so. Those two didn't get along earlier this year.
No, they did not, but I think after the season that Aaron Donald has put up this year, I think it might just be time there, Tom. I think it might just be time. All right, before we get into our top 4, which mind you has actually been pretty consistent for the latter half of the year, we are going to go through our summary here. We have the Cleveland Browns at 32, the Giants at 31, the Colts at 30, and the Texans at 29. And then after that, we have the Chicago Bears, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Cincinnati Bengals, the New York Jets at 25. Coming up after them, we have the San Francisco 49ers, the Denver Broncos, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Miami Dolphins. Proceeding after them, the Oakland Raiders, the Washington Redskins, the Green Bay Packers, and the Tennessee Titans. And into the top half of the NFL, the Buffalo Bills, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Detroit Lions, and the Seattle Seahawks. And then one more time, the Ravens, the Cowboys, the Chiefs and the Falcons, and then the Panthers, the Jaguars, the Saints, and the Rams. Let's get into the top 4, Tom Downey. I love our top 4 because I think these are the true teams that have a chance of winning a Super Bowl. And at number 4, I think that they have the best single unit in the entire NFL. I think the Vikings defense is the best unit of any team in the NFL. It's so good.
I think the Jaguars defense is better than Minnesota. But in the NFC, I think Minnesota does have the best defense. And The NFC is in a very interesting spot right now where the teams with the best records, namely the Vikings and the Eagles, don't have the quarterbacks you'd like to have to make a true Super Bowl run. Yeah, Case Keenum has been very good. I am not ready to trust Case Keenum to get me to the Super Bowl. And I think the Vikings are right to continue to play with him because he has done well, and their defense makes up for a lot of mistakes. We've seen that in years past. We've seen teams like the Ravens and teams like the Peyton Manning-led Broncos at the end of Manning's career win because of their defense. That's very difficult to do, but I am a big fan of what Minnesota has built on the defensive side of the ball. The ground game has been very effective by the way, without Dalvin Cook. Imagine if they had kept him healthy all year long. I think Minnesota in the NFC is a team that people aren't going to want to play because of that defense, especially if they have to go to Minnesota. But the presence of Case Keenum makes me doubt their Super Bowl chances in terms of the NFC and going up against a Big Ben or Tom Brady-led Patriots last year.
I think at this point, the name value of Case Keenum kind of it annoyingly overrides his actual play this year. I understand that his name is Case Keenum, and we know what Case Keenum has done in the past, but this is not the same Case Keenum. He's either a middle-of-the-pack quarterback right now or the best backup quarterback in the NFL, which for my money, I think is good enough to win a Super Bowl. Right now, Case Keenum, this season, Case Keenum, how many quarterbacks would you take over him right now from this season? Maybe 8?
No,
he's been amazing. He's been spectacular this year.
I would take a lot more. If you're including everyone healthy, I would take a lot more quarterbacks in Case Keenum.
Well, they aren't healthy.
Because I also believe that if you put them on Minnesota with the job that staff has done and the pieces that they have around him, Adam Thielen has emerged the past year and a half, 2 years into an incredible player.
So Case Keenum gets zero credit for that at all.
No, he does get credit. But I'm not saying he's a top 10
quarterback. Rating of almost 100.
He's not a top 10 quarterback.
3,200 yards, a completion percentage of 68%. Look, that's not. Look, he doesn't get any credit.
No, he does get credit, but I'm still not ready to put my betting money behind Case Keenum. I'm not going to do that.
What if we did one of your QB comparison? Because I know you Mitch Renz love them. You love giving them to me.
I'll throw some up on Twitter. How about that?
Because I think if you put him next to Case Keenum and you take away his name, he's been one of the best QBs in football this year.
Exactly.
I'll take Case Keenum. I think Case Keenum with the Vikings.
I've been very impressed by Case Keenum. But I think if you ask the Vikings, what are they going to do next year in the offseason? Are they going to look to upgrade a quarterback? The answer is going to be yes.
Well, Case Keenum is going to get a pretty fat contract. Watch out for the Washington Redskins. I think that would actually be a pretty fun option. He's going to get paid this offseason. All right, Tom Downey. Go follow him at One Going Downey. At number 3, you can find me at Sports Team. But at number 3, the Pittsburgh Steelers coming off of, well, Tom, did he catch it?
Did he
really catch it?
By rule, no, he did not.
No, he didn't.
No, he did not.
No, he didn't. Sitting there at number 3, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Tom, one of the things that kind of worries me about them going forward, they played well against the Patriots, and this is a team for me and a franchise that has always played up to the level of the competition they're playing. So I think in the playoffs they'll be fine, but you can make an argument that as of right now, the best player on their defense and the best player on their offense are both injured. And I understand Antonio Brown will be ready for the playoffs, but
hopefully,
you telling me that a partially torn calf is going to be 100% healthy in like a month?
Depends on how severe that calf is.
It also depends on how fast Antonio Brown can heal.
Yeah,
never dealt with an injury of this level before.
They nearly beat the Patriots, and frankly, they should have. I am just from a hypothetical standpoint, I am really curious what the Chat Sports staff voting would have done had the Steelers found a way to win that game, but also knowing that Antonio Brown was going to miss at least the next 2 games.
Well, that is an interesting
would they still have been number 1?
Let's play the hypothetical game.
Hope
Where
so.
would you have had them?
I would have had him at number 1. I had him at number 1 last week. So I would have kept him there.
My one issue with the Steelers, and one of the reasons why, I know over the past couple weeks we have had them at number 1. Even last week going into that game against the Patriots, I didn't have them number 1 just because I don't know how they could be listed number 1 if they can never beat the team that is usually at number 1. I understand it's on a season-to-season basis, but Tom, how far can this team really go without Ryan Shazier on defense?
That's a great question. And the linebacking core in general I thought was a bit of a weakness. I know that the team likes Vince Williams. I don't think he is a great option there. The secondary has been good this year with the addition of Joe Hayden. In the end, for Pittsburgh, the defense is going to still think I'd be top 15. They're going to need a more consistent Big Ben. And he's been up and down this year. We've seen the 5 interception games. We saw the great drive down the stretch and then ruin it by throwing the interception, which, by the way, Big Ben trying to throw Todd Haley under the bus by saying that call came in from the sidelines. Look, Big Ben, if you don't want to do that play, just snap it or just spike the ball. Don't worry about that.
One thing before we move on to our number 2 team here, I actually wanted to bring that up with you. what is Big Ben doing here? He's now called out every single coach. Tomlin's come back and said he should have just listened to himself, and then this whole crazy thing with the timeout, that didn't work out. This is not what you want to be quarreling over. I understand the Patriots have been in the Steelers' heads for years now, but you're 2 weeks away from the playoffs. This squabbling can't happen.
This is Big Ben, though. He loves the drama, and he is a drama queen. This is what Big Ben does, and he's frequently done this when it comes to not always shouldering the responsibility. Like, if you're Big Ben and you throw the interception late in the game like that on a fake spike, don't try and say, you know what, that call came in from the coach. We didn't know what we were doing. If that's the case, you got two options then. A, just spike it anyway and say you got confused. It's not going to matter because you're still having a chance. And then you know what? If the guy is in open, don't throw it. Todd Haley didn't throw that ball, Ben.
My thing also with this, they had 4 minutes while that review was going over to figure out what they wanted to do. And they came up with a cross pattern to Darius Hayward-Bay.
That
and
was
he didn't get out of bounds.
That was not the original read. There was pressure coming. Big Ben had to check it away before he got sacked. Wasn't a great option there, but you can't have all 4 routes. That was designed to free up somebody else. It just didn't happen.
Yeah, I think the whole thing was managed incredibly poorly, and that's one of the reasons why when you want to look back at Bill Belichick's legacy, his legacy is they are always ready for anything, and I think that goal line play will constantly prove that. Let's get into our number 2 team. I have them at number 2 this week because they proved me wrong, Tom. They proved me wrong. Nick Foles looked fantastic. And it wasn't just that his offense looked great. He looked great. He was throwing the ball really well. He was hitting his targets. This wasn't just, oh, he's great because the offense is good. He was really good.
He should, like, this actually is what I expected out of Nick Foles. 24 of 38, 237 yards. He did have the 4 touchdowns, which is great. If you take away the 4 touchdowns, you put it more like 2, I think that's what we're going to expect out of Nick Foles. What actually concerned about this game was I actually came away from this game against the Giants more concerned about Philadelphia than I did entering the game.
You moved them down, correct, in your ranking.
How the hell do you give up 34 points to this Giants team?
That's very true.
My biggest concern about Philadelphia was that they didn't have the defense to compensate from going to Carson Wentz to Nick Foles. And I don't care what some of the commenters said, that is a downgrade.
Yes.
This is a MVP Carson Wentz to Nick Foles. It is a downgrade.
Hey, Nick Foles almost won an MVP.
And that's the difference between a team like, say, the Vikings, for example, and the Eagles. The Vikings have that elite defense. Philadelphia has a solid defense. I could not believe that they allowed 34 points to the Giants.
Now,
could not believe it.
We have a reaction poll up here, which is the best team in the NFC. Give us a heart for the Eagles, a wow face for the Vikings, a thumbs up for the Rams, and a laughing face, or a ha-ha face, excuse me, for the Saints. I will say this about the Eagles defense, though. The best run defense in football right now through 15 weeks. The lowest yards per game in the NFL and the lowest amount of touchdowns given up. So their run defense has been really, really good. But at the same time, it's just a little bit concerning based off of what we saw in the pass defense. I mean, the secondary just hasn't been great.
29 points they allowed. That was the most points the Giants have scored all year long. That doesn't make any sense given how banged up this team has been. And not only that, they didn't score that many points last year. They never scored more than 28 points with Ben McAdoo. And they do it against the Eagles.
Who is their offensive coordinator now? I don't even know.
Who cares? Like, this is a bad Giants team, and for the Eagles to give up that many points has me genuinely concerned because what's going to happen when they play better offenses?
They were one play away from losing.
Yeah. So Nick Foles did kind of what I thought Nick Foles was going to do, just with more points or with more touchdowns, which 1 or 2 could easily gone to the ground game there. But I think with Philadelphia, the defensive and the performance against the Eagles or against the Giants has me concerned.
Before we move on here, last question about the Philadelphia Eagles. With Nick Foles, with all the question on defense, can they win a Super Bowl?
They can. They absolutely can. All these teams we talk about in the top 10 can win a Super Bowl, but I don't think they're going to. And the Eagles would not be one of my top picks to the team that finally wins that Super Bowl. I don't think the team without Carson Wentz is good enough to do it. If Carson Wentz had stayed healthy, they'd still be number 1 for me, and they'd still be my pick to win the NFC. But without Carson Wentz, the difference between Nick Foles is just enough to cost them that.
I agree. Let's move into a number 1 team, Tom, and I'm guessing the people at home can do a little process of elimination. New England Patriots taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers 27-24 on one of the craziest games you will ever see, Tom. I'm still speechless. We were in the office when that game went on. I was screaming all over the place. Gronk played maybe his best game in a Patriots uniform. But again, Tom Brady, outside of the fourth quarter, wasn't 100% sharp.
No, look, it doesn't matter. They won the game, and this is a good team. The defense, as of late, has stepped up. Brady did what he needed to do. Maybe we sing a different tune if they had lost that game. This is still a Patriots team that it's the Patriots. They've got Tom Brady. Maybe he's not peak Tom Brady, but he's still a really, really good NFL team. I think, or an NFL quarterback, excuse me, on a great team. I trust Bill Belichick in the postseason. The defense has looked good enough as of late. I think with the Patriots, I don't like saying it. I think there's some fatigue overall, but the Patriots here are the #1 team in the NFL.
I will say this, though, and obviously, the Patriots have been the best team in the NFL for a while now, but the one disappointing thing, I think, besides all the injuries this season, and maybe it's the causation of that, there isn't really a great team this year. I wouldn't call the Patriots this year a great team.
There's parity.
There's a lot of parity, but what would you want more? Would you want a great team that's dominating all year long? It doesn't even have to be the Patriots. It could have been like the Eagles if they did that all year long. Would you rather have a lot of parity or just one exciting, really fun team just mowing people down?
I like parity. Parity is
Really?
more fun.
I like the other way around.
No, see, I like parity. I like it when it's different teams each year, when there's some debate about who actually is the best team in the NFL, who's going to win the NFC, because as we discussed earlier, it's a real toss-up right now with the injury to Carson Wentz.
I like great teams, and I like that Eagles team. When we start off the year with them mowing them down, I thought that was great. But taking a look at the AFC playoff picture here, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who could have had that potential to be kind of that team if Tom Brady didn't exist. They might have been able to do it for the past 2 years. I still can't believe that a team with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and Ben Roethlisberger has yet to win a Super Bowl. I'm stunned.
Defense matters. Defense matters. And that's the nature of the NFL and actually why there's parity, because you can't invest unlimited funds into every area of your team. And I think the best analogy is you've got, let's just take defense. You've got 3 levels on defense. The front 4, the linebackers, and the secondary. You've got 10 points to spend with a maximum of 5 on each position.
Okay.
You can't spend 5 on all. You got to go cheap somewhere. Teams like Seattle have gone cheap on the offensive line. Teams like the Giants have gone cheap on the linebacker spot. And there's some luck involved there too with health and what guys you find late in the draft.
Pats have always gone light when it comes to linebacking core. I mean, I've been complaining about the team all year. Taking out our NFC playoff picture one more time: the Eagles, the Vikings, the Saints, and the Rams, with the Panthers and the Falcons gripping on to that wild card spot with every strength that they have left, and in the hunt still, the Lions, the Seahawks, and the Cowboys. Let's summarize our NFL power rankings one more time for everyone at home still watching. We got the Browns, the Giants, the Colts, and the Texans making up the caboose of the NFL right now. We have the Bears, the Bucks, the Bengals, and the Jets. Right after them, we have the 49ers, the Broncos, the Cardinals, and the Dolphins. Going now closer to the middle of the NFL, we have the Raiders, the Redskins, the Packers, and the Titans. Jumping up into the top half of the NFL, we have the Bills, the Chargers, the Lions, and the Seahawks. Now get into our legitimate playoff teams. We have the Ravens, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, and the Falcons. And then after them, we have the Panthers, the Jaguars, the Saints, and the Rams. And then one more time into our top 4. I can't say it anymore, Tom, that a team in the top 4 has switched, because we're now 2 weeks into our top 4 actually not changing at all. Got the Vikings, the Steelers, the Eagles, and the Patriots. And then we did do our MVP power rankings in the middle of the show. And if you missed them, here they are. Rusell Wilson, Carson Wentz, despite the injury, still in our top 5. Drew Brees at number 3. Todd Gurley at 2 in that incredible season he's having. 17 total touchdowns for the running back. And then Tom Brady sitting at number 1. A reminder that this episode is brought to you by Mizzen & Main, the most comfortable Jets shirts for men. Tom, you and I both own one of these shirts.
I do.
And they're just incredible.
My favorite one is my green one, which I'm not allowed to wear on air because I turn into a hologram. It looks kind of weird, but I do love to wear going out. The people love it.
People love it, club, and I've been wearing it around the office the past couple of days. I will be wearing it, but I wore it so many days in a row that I
At some point, you do have to watch
it. At some point, you do have to watch it. It's just so comfortable. You want to just sleep in it. Tom, one more time before we go. We've had a lot of Cowboys fans in our mentions and our comments all show long. For the people at home, as the host of the Cowboys Report, do you think they will beat the Seahawks this weekend?
Yes, they will.
What's the score?
I got to go back and check. I think I had 27-20 was my exact
27-20. If you want to go watch the Cowboys Reports featuring Tom Downey and producer Brett Scott, I actually produced that one. You can go find it on YouTube and also on the Cowboys Report video podcast on iTunes. But for Tom Downey, I'm Harris Rubenstein. We will see you guys tomorrow for NFL Preview. But for now, see you.